Let me tell you something. Not one Republican member of our conference that I have spoken to has any idea what is in this foreign aid package that's going to give $60 billion to Ukraine. And that is even the leadership offices. They haven't heard from Mike Johnson on the details. We're reading about it in the news the same way the American people are. And it's outrageous. When you saw Zelensky right there on that interview talking about, oh, we're going to lose territory. Oh, we really need this money. This $60 billion should have been approved yesterday. Let me tell you, we are losing our country to the illegal invasion that's happening every single day at our southern border. And I am so pissed off about it because the American people are pissed off about it. And while our so-called Republican Speaker of the House is only working with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Ukraine First Mitch McConnell and the White House and Jake Sullivan, who he talks to on the phone all the time, we are angry and people have had it. We don't want $60 billion to go to Ukraine because as we slept last night, Tucker, we just went $40 billion more into debt. And that's because the interest on our debt is so huge and our debt is so massive. This is happening while we sleep every single night. So no, we don't want to send $60 billion to Ukraine. We want to put our country first. It's time to care about America.
So, I mean, is it true, do you think, that the Republican speaker would bring this up at when your recess ends and get it passed without the majority of Republicans, but with Democrats? Could that actually happen?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what he's planning to do. Here's what I've been told. Well, first off, let's go back, Tucker. The last vote that we had on any Ukraine funding was on September 28th of 2023. That was only months ago. And that vote, only 101 Republicans voted yes for $300 million. $300 million to go to Ukraine. And that was because I pitched an enormous fit and said, take this money out of our Department of Defense. We should not be funding a foreign war in order to fund our military. That's completely wrong. And our military, their mission, as stated on their website, is to put our national security first. It's all about our national security. Fighting a proxy war with Russia in Ukraine, which is a non-NATO member nation, is not protecting America's national security interest. It doesn't protect the United States of America. As a matter of fact, that pushes us closer and closer to World War III. So we had that vote on September 28th, 2023. 117 Republicans voted no. That was the majority of the majority. Every single Democrat voted yes. Every single one. They had 0 Democrats vote no. Our Republican Speaker of the House is planning to suspend the rules next week. He is planning to not put this bill through the Rules Committee. He's not going to allow us to do any amendments. Amendments are our way of changing a bill. Amendments are our way of putting our district's interest, who we represent. That's our job title, representative. It's our way of changing a bill. Mike Johnson is going to tie our hands behind our backs and not allow us to do that. As he brings that bill to the floor, every Democrat will vote for it, and a small portion of Republicans, less than the majority, will vote for it as well. And this isn't a Republican speaker we have right now. This is a Democrat speaker of the House, because there is 0 daylight between what Nancy Pelosi did last Congress and what Mike Johnson is doing now as our so-called Republican Speaker of the House. And now with the $60 billion going to a war in Ukraine, that 70% of Americans do not support it. That's the most recent polling. 70% of Americans, and the majority of Republicans do not support funding Ukraine. People want to see a peace deal in Ukraine, not murdering more Ukrainians and more Russians. This needs to end. But no, Mike Johnson has made a complete departure of who he is and what he stands for. And to the point where people are literally asking, is he blackmailed? What is wrong with him? Because he's completely disconnected with what we want.
Do you think he is being blackmailed?
I have no idea. I can't comprehend, Tucker, what radically changes a man. I mean, if we break down the second part of basically an omnibus, let's break that down. So Mike Johnson is pro-life. In the second part of the omnibus, just less than 2 weeks ago, he funded full-term abortion clinics. Full-term abortion clinics. He funded the trans agenda on children. I mean, how does that even happen from a Christian conservative Republican speaker? He did nothing for the southern border, did nothing to secure the border. And this comes on the heels of Laken Riley being brutally murdered. This came on the heels of a video that was running on loop on social media where illegal aliens had rushed our border, ran over Texas National Guard, ran over Border Patrol agents in order to invade our country. These were military-aged men, by the way. He did nothing to secure a border. It's the number one issue in the world. He completely changed who he was, funded the FBI, gave him a brand new building, fully funded the Department of Justice that is persecuting everyone on the right and actually targeting our presidential candidate for election this year, literally trying to put him in jail the rest of his life. We don't know who Mike Johnson is anymore, so there's I can't comprehend it.
Well, I have noticed just from living in Washington for so long that a lot of the top decision makers are lying about their personal lives, and there's something really amiss there. Mm-hmm. I would definitely say Mitch McConnell would be among those. And there does seem to be a connection between the creepiness of your personal life and the deception around your personal life and your willingness to vote with the other side. I mean, have you noticed this at all?
Absolutely. And I think it's something that the American people are extremely aware of because none of it makes sense. Yeah. How do you become Speaker of the House? And let's look at that. It's basically like there's Establishment Washington runs like a company. We could call it the firm. Well, Mike Johnson just got promoted to senior partner at the firm because he has been obeying their every single demand. He funded the military. He funded the military-industrial complex and everything that they want done. He funded Biden's open border invasion. He funded the Green New Deal, the climate agenda. He funded full-term abortion clinics, the trans agenda on kids. He funded every single thing that the firm stands for and what they're trying to push on the rest of the world. This is the agenda for the rest of the world, and they're not hiding it one single bit. We saw the White House declare Easter Trans Day of Visibility, which is the biggest insult, slap in the face to Christians all over our country. And that's the majority of Americans. They are not hiding it. How did Christian conservative Mike Johnson go from being a Christian conservative, voting that way, legislating that way, to the Speaker of the House that actually funds that agenda? I mean, what in the world happens? And you can't help but to question, what do they have on him? Is he being blackmailed? What would make this man do this? And you can't be. It's called a hypocrisy, is what that's called. That is completely against every tenet of our Christian faith. It's against what the Bible says. If we went to biblical principles, Tucker, biblical principles teach us to not be in debt because we are slaves to our debtor. But yet this morning, when Americans woke up, they found themselves $34.6 trillion in debt, and it went up $40 billion while they slept. So that is completely against our Christian faith, against our principles that the Bible teaches us. But to fund the murder every single day, to fund a war, to pay for it, to continue it, to advise it, to have our CIA on the ground over there running that war in Ukraine against Russia, nuclear-armed Russia, this is beyond this. You can't even call yourself a Christian if that's what you're doing. That is a complete departure from anything that is Christian. And I would argue funding wars all over the world is a complete departure. Because here's the truth. They lie to us every single day, Tucker, telling us that Vladimir Putin and Russia is going to continue and march across Europe and take over Europe. That is a complete lie because that is not what we are seeing with our eyes. And that is not what recent history is showing us. And that is not the statements of Vladimir Putin and Russia. That is not what they are saying they want to do.
Yeah. I mean, like they care about Europe. They blew up their natural gas pipeline. They impoverished Europe. They destroyed the economy of Europe. Mike Johnson and his friends. So last question. Is this actually going to happen? Will this funding go through with Mike Johnson leading the charge after recess?
Yes, everything that I've seen, everyone that I've talked to is this is happening next week. He's going to suspend the rules. He's going to bring it to the floor for a vote. Every Democrat is going to wear their blue and yellow lapel pins and flags and scarves, and they're going to vote to fund that. and we're going to have, a percentage of our Republicans that actually support it will vote to fund it. And it will pass in the House. It will pass in the House. It'll go to the Senate. Mitch McConnell will line up his little Senate soldiers and they will vote for it. And Chuck Schumer can't wait to pass it because Ukraine is everything, right? Ukraine is everything. Murdering an entire generation of Ukrainian men is the most important thing that they can do. And yeah, they'll pass it and then Joe Biden will sign it into law.
Yeah, sure.
If the American people, let me tell you something, Tucker, and I can't make this point loud enough. The American people can stop our government. They can. When they decide that it's important enough for them, when they realize that within 10 years, CBO has projected that we will be approximately $55 trillion in debt at the current spending levels. If everything stays the same, we're going to be $55 trillion in debt in 10 years. We are going to implode. If the American people finally decide they're tired of illegal aliens murdering them, they're tired of illegal aliens squatting in their homes, they're tired of illegal alien men raping children and raping women, yeah, if the American people finally have had enough and say no, they can stop it. And let me tell you, Tucker, if the American people say enough of sending money to foreign wars and foreign aid and funding the murder of people in foreign countries and in countries we can't even find on a map most of the time, yeah, if the American people say they've had enough of that and they're able to engage in this and stop spending all their money on all their hobbies and being disconnected and refusing to look at the serious situation that we're living in right now, oh yeah. The American people have far more power than I have, and I'm a member of Congress. If they literally hold our government accountable and stand up and say, enough of this, and I think they should throw out every single elected official. I'm not kidding. Every one of us should be thrown out. This government is a failure to the American people, and I'm angry about it, Tucker, because I'm a mom. My adult children and that generation and your kids and our grandchildren at the current rate right now, they'll never be able to afford a home. They have no strong financial future, and they are going to be living and raising their own children in a country whose government has screwed all of us over. And that is the flat out honest truth, Tucker. And so, yeah, the American people could stop it if they really want to.